Girl gives her sandwich to a stray dog. The next day, the unexpected happens. The sun hung low over the sleepy town, casting golden hues across the quiet streets. 7-year-old Emily skipped along the sidewalk, her backpack bouncing against her shoulders as she hummed a tune her mother often sang while cooking. It was a chilly autumn afternoon, and the scent of fallen leaves mixed with the distant aroma of fresh bread from the bakery down the street. As she neared the old oak tree by the playground, she saw him again, the scruffy, thin dog that had been lingering in the area for days. His fur was matted, his ribs visible beneath his dull coat, and his eyes, though tired, held a gentle, pleading look. Emily had seen the dog before. He often sat under that tree, watching passers-by with quiet desperation. Some people ignored him, while others shooed him away. But Emily wasn't like them. She had always felt a connection to animals, especially those in need. Today, she had something special, a ham and cheese sandwich wrapped neatly in a napkin. Her mother had packed it for her, but Emily wasn't very hungry. As she walked closer, the dog lifted his head, ears perking up slightly. "Hey there, buddy," she said softly, kneeling a few feet away. The dog sniffed the air, but didn't move. He was cautious, perhaps fearing that she, too, would push him away like the others had. Carefully, Emily unwrapped her sandwich and tore a piece off, holding it out. "Are you hungry?" The dog's nose twitched, and after a moment of hesitation, he inched closer. He took the piece gently from her fingers, his rough tongue brushing against her small hand. Emily giggled. "See? I won't hurt you," she whispered, offering another piece. This time, the dog came a little closer, his tail giving a faint wag. By the time Emily had given him the last bite of her sandwich, she had decided she was going to help him. That evening, she asked her mother if they could take the dog in. But her mother hesitated. "Honey, we don't know where he came from. He might belong to someone, or he could be sick." "But he's so skinny, Mom." "I think he's all alone," Emily pleaded. Her mother sighed, giving her a gentle smile. "All right, if he's still there tomorrow, we'll figure something out." Emily went to bed that night thinking of the dog, hoping he wouldn't be too cold or too hungry. The next day, the morning air was crisp as Emily hurried to the playground before school. Her heart sank when she didn't see the dog under the oak tree. Had someone taken him? Or had he left? Just as she turned to leave, she heard a rustling in the bushes. Then, out he came, his tail wagging, his eyes bright. But he wasn't alone. Behind him, 2 tiny puppies stumbled forward, their fur just as scruffy, their bellies round with hunger. Emily gasped. "Oh my goodness, you're a daddy." The stray dog nudged one of the puppies toward her, as if presenting them to her. Emily's heart swelled. He hadn't just been looking for food for himself, he had babies to take care of. And now, he had trusted her enough to show them to her. Later that day, Emily's mother couldn't say no. They brought the dog and his puppies home, giving them warm baths, soft blankets, and full bellies for the first time in who knew how long. And so, what had started as a simple act of kindness, a little girl sharing her sandwich, became the beginning of a beautiful friendship. The stray dog and his puppies had found a home, and Emily had found a lifelong friend who would always remember the girl who cared enough to stop and share her meal. The unexpected miracle. Months later, on a freezing winter night, when a gas leak went unnoticed in the house, it was the stray dog, now named Buddy, who sensed the danger. He barked, growled, and scratched at Emily's door until she woke up. His frantic actions alerted her parents just in time, and they evacuated before disaster struck. Buddy wasn't just a stray anymore. He was family. And he had returned Emily's kindness in the most unexpected way, by saving their lives. Sometimes, the smallest gestures of kindness come back to us in ways we could never imagine. Winter had settled in fully, blanketing the town in thick layers of snow. Christmas lights twinkled from rooftops, and the air smelled of cinnamon and firewood. Inside Emily's home, Buddy and his 2 puppies, now named Snowball and Coco, lay curled up on a soft rug by the fireplace. They were no longer frail and shivering but healthy, happy, and full of life. Emily had never been happier. She spent her afternoons playing with the puppies, building tiny snow forts in the backyard while Buddy watched over them like a proud father. But deep down, she knew something was still missing. One evening, as she sat on the couch, stroking Buddy's now glossy fur, she looked up at her mother. "Mom, do you think Buddy had a family before?" Her mother sighed, setting down her knitting needles. "It's possible, sweetheart. Stray dogs don't always start off that way. Maybe he got lost, or maybe someone left him behind." Emily's chest tightened at the thought of Buddy once belonging to someone who had abandoned him. He was so loving, so protective. How could anyone leave him? She glanced down at the dog, who rested his head on her lap. "Do you think he misses them?" Her mother hesitated before answering. "Maybe. But I think he's happy now." Emily nodded, but that night, as she lay in bed, she made a decision. She would find out where Buddy had come from. The search begins. The next morning, she bundled up in her warmest coat and set off with Buddy trotting beside her. She decided to start with the playground where she had first met him. Maybe someone nearby had seen him before. She asked Mrs. Thompson, the elderly woman who owned the bakery, if she had ever noticed Buddy before he appeared under the oak tree. "Oh, that dog." Mrs. Thompson adjusted her glasses. "Now that you mention it, I do recall seeing him a few months ago. He used to sit outside the grocery store near the alley." Emily's heart skipped. "Did he have a collar?" Mrs. Thompson shook her head.
"No, dear."
"But he was always watching the road, like he was waiting for someone." Waiting for someone. The thought made Emily's chest ache. She thanked the old woman and rushed toward the grocery store, her boots crunching in the fresh snow. When she got there, she found the alley Mrs. Thompson had mentioned. It was empty now, but Emily noticed faint paw prints leading away from it, disappearing into the snow. Buddy sniffed the air and whined softly.
"Did
you wait here for someone?" Emily whispered, kneeling beside him. She imagined him sitting there for days, watching cars pass, hoping to see a familiar face. But whoever he had been waiting for had never come. Emily didn't know why, but she felt a strange sadness settle over her. What if Buddy's owner had loved him but had been unable to keep him? What if something had happened to them? She decided to keep looking. A clue from the past. Days passed, and Emily asked more people in town about Buddy. Finally, she met a young man named Jake, who worked at the gas station. "You mean that black and white dog?" "Yeah, I remember him," Jake said, wiping his hands on a rag. "Used to belong to an old man, Mr. Henderson. He lived in the little blue house near the woods." Emily's eyes widened. What happened to him? Jake's face grew somber. "He passed away about 6 months ago. Lived alone except for that dog. After he was gone, I guess the dog had nowhere to go." Emily felt a lump in her throat. Buddy hadn't been abandoned. He had lost the person he loved. He had waited by the road, hoping his owner would come back, not understanding that he never would. Tears stung her eyes as she knelt down and hugged Buddy tightly. "I'm so sorry," she whispered into his fur. Buddy licked her cheek, his tail wagging softly, as if telling her it was okay. He had found a new family now. A Christmas surprise. As Christmas Eve approached, Emily couldn't stop thinking about Mr. Henderson. Had he been lonely in his final days? Had he known how much Buddy had loved him? Then she had an idea. She convinced her mother to help her gather supplies, food, blankets, and small gifts. Together, they visited the nursing home where Mr. Henderson had once stayed before moving back to his little house. The elderly residents were delighted to see Buddy, who wagged his tail happily as he received gentle pets and kind words. One old woman, Mrs. Green, smiled as she stroked his head. "Henderson always talked about this dog. Said he was the best friend he ever had." Emily swallowed the lump in her throat. He still loves him. That night, as she lay in bed with Buddy curled beside her, she felt a warmth in her heart. Buddy's past had been filled with loss, but his future was full of love. And in a way, Mr. Henderson had given her a gift, too. Because of him, she had found the best friend she had ever known. Buddy had come into her life in the most unexpected way, and she knew one thing for sure: she would never let him go. The days after Christmas were peaceful. Snow still covered the ground, and Buddy, along with his puppies, Snowball and Coco, had become an inseparable part of Emily's family. He was no longer the scared, hungry dog she had first met. Now his eyes shone with warmth, and his body was strong and healthy. But deep in his heart, there were still memories of his past life, of the man he had once waited for. Emily, too, often thought about Mr. Henderson. She had learned so much about Buddy's past, but something still didn't feel complete. She couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to the story, something that hadn't yet been uncovered. One day, as she sat on the porch with Buddy curled at her feet, an idea formed in her mind. "Mom," she called into the house, "do you think we could visit Mr. Henderson's old house?" Her mother looked at her curiously. "Why do you want to go there, sweetheart?" Emily hesitated. "I just feel like there's something we need to find out. Like, maybe there's something Buddy is still waiting for." Her mother sighed, but she saw the determination in her daughter's eyes. "All right, we can go tomorrow. But we have to be careful. The house has been empty for months." The journey to the old house. The next morning, Emily and her mother drove toward the woods where Mr. Henderson's little blue house stood. The road was covered in ice, and the trees were bare, their branches reaching toward the sky like skeletal fingers. As they pulled up to the house, Emily felt a chill, not from the cold, but from something else. The house looked abandoned, the paint peeling, the windows dark. Yet, there was an odd sense of warmth, as if the place still held memories within its walls. Buddy jumped out of the car first. His ears perked up, and his tail twitched as he sniffed the air. Then, suddenly, he bolted toward the front door, barking excitedly. Emily hurried after him. "Buddy, wait." She reached the porch just as Buddy pawed at the door. His whines grew louder, and his body trembled with something Emily had never seen before, anxious excitement. Her mother frowned. "What's wrong with him?" Emily pressed her hand against the wooden door. "I think he remembers something." With a deep breath, she turned the rusty doorknob. It creaked open, revealing the dusty interior of the house. The forgotten secret. Inside, everything was still, as if frozen in time. A rocking chair sat in the corner, a blanket draped over it, as though Mr. Henderson had just left it moments ago. A stack of old books rested on a small wooden table, their pages yellowed with age. Buddy walked in slowly, his nose twitching as he sniffed the air. Then, without warning, he ran toward a small cabinet near the fireplace and started scratching at the door. Emily rushed over. "What is it, boy?" Her mother joined her, kneeling down to open the cabinet. Inside, among a few dusty boxes, was an old leather pouch. Curious, Emily picked it up and unfastened the buckle. Inside, she found something surprising: letters. Dozens of them, neatly folded, tied together with a faded blue ribbon. She pulled one out and opened it carefully. The handwriting was shaky but readable. "To my dearest friend, I don't know how much time I have left, but if you're reading this, it means my heart led you here. I've always believed that love never really disappears. It finds a way to return. If Buddy is still out there, tell him I never forgot about him. He was my best friend, and I loved him more than anything." Tears welled up in Emily's eyes. The letters were all addressed to Buddy. Mr. Henderson had written to him, even in his last days, as if he had hoped that somehow, someday, his beloved dog would return. Emily looked at Buddy, who sat quietly beside her, his big brown eyes filled with something deep and unspoken. She gently stroked his fur. "He never forgot about you, Buddy. He loved you until the very end." Buddy let out a soft whimper, then licked her hand, as if understanding. A new purpose. That night, Emily couldn't stop thinking about the letters. Mr. Henderson had left behind words of love, but no one had ever read them, until now. She knew she couldn't let them be forgotten. She made a decision. With the help of her mother, she scanned the letters and typed them out. Then, she shared the story online. A story of a dog who had waited for his owner, of a man who had never stopped loving his best friend, and of how kindness had brought them back together in spirit. The story spread quickly, touching the hearts of thousands. People from all over the country reached out, sharing their own stories of lost pets, of love that never faded, of the unbreakable bond between humans and animals. One day, Emily received a message from an elderly woman named Margaret. "I knew Mr. Henderson," she wrote. "He was my brother. I always wondered what happened to his dog. Thank you for keeping his memory alive." Emily's heart swelled. She had done more than just find Buddy's past. She had reunited a family, even beyond the barriers of time. A sign from above. One evening, as Emily sat on the porch with Buddy curled beside her, a gentle breeze rustled the trees. She looked up at the sky, where the first stars of the night began to twinkle. That moment, something remarkable happened. A shooting star streaked across the sky, its glow reflecting in Buddy's eyes. Emily smiled. "Maybe that's Mr. Henderson, saying thank you." Buddy let out a happy bark, as if agreeing. From that day on, Emily knew one thing for certain: love never truly fades. It simply finds a way to live on in memories, in kindness, and in the hearts of those who choose to remember. The cold winter gave way to the fresh bloom of spring. Flowers peeked through the thawing soil, birds chirped in the trees, and the days grew longer. Emily loved this time of year, especially now that Buddy and his puppies were part of her life. After the discovery of Mr. Henderson's letters, everything felt different. Emily felt like she had uncovered a part of Buddy's heart that had been locked away, and in doing so, she had given him closure. But even though Buddy had settled into his new life, Emily couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to his story. One evening, as she sat on the front steps of her house, watching Snowball and Coco play in the yard, she turned to Buddy, who lay beside her. "Do you ever think about him?" she asked softly, stroking his fur. Buddy lifted his head, his ears twitching at the sound of her voice. His eyes, deep and knowing, met hers. He didn't need to answer. Emily already knew. That night, she lay awake, staring at the ceiling. There was something unfinished, something she hadn't yet figured out. Mr. Henderson's letters had given her a glimpse into his love for Buddy, but why had Buddy been alone for so long? Had Mr. Henderson passed away suddenly? Had no one cared enough to look for Buddy when his owner was gone? The questions haunted her. A new discovery. The next morning, Emily made up her mind. She was going to find out what had happened in the final days of Mr. Henderson's life. She started by asking her mother if they could visit the town records office. "Emily, are you sure you want to keep digging into this?" her mother asked as they drove through town. "You already found out so much. Maybe it's time to let Buddy just be happy with us." Emily shook her head. "I need to know, Mom. Something doesn't feel right." When they arrived at the records office, they were greeted by an older man named Mr. Thompson, who had worked there for years. "You're looking for information on Mr. Henderson?" he asked, adjusting his glasses. "I remember him. He was a quiet man, kept to himself." Emily nodded eagerly. "Do you know what happened to him?" "How did he?" She hesitated, unsure how to phrase it. Mr. Thompson sighed and pulled out an old file. "He passed away in his home. The neighbors found him a few days later. He didn't have any close family in town." Emily's stomach twisted. "And Buddy? What happened to his dog?" The old man frowned. "That's the strange part. When the authorities entered the house, there was no sign of the dog. Some assumed he had run away, but I always found it odd. Dogs don't usually leave their owners' sides, not in times like that." Emily's heart pounded. Buddy hadn't just run away. Something had happened. Following the clues. Determined, Emily and her mother drove back to Mr. Henderson's old house. This time, Emily was looking for something different. She searched the backyard, the shed, the areas surrounding the property. Then, near the fence line, she found something. A small gap in the wooden fence, just large enough for a dog to squeeze through. Her breath caught in her throat. Could Buddy have been scared? Had something forced him to leave? Buddy trotted up beside her, sniffing the air. Then, his ears perked up, and he let out a low, warning growl. Emily froze. "What is it, boy?" Buddy's nose was pressed to the ground, following an invisible trail. He started moving toward the trees beyond the fence. Emily's mother called after her. "Emily, don't go too far." But Emily was already moving. She followed Buddy as he weaved through the trees, his body tense, his movements urgent. And then they found it. An old, rusted chain. Emily's heart stopped. She knelt down, her fingers brushing against the cold metal. The chain was attached to a stake in the ground. It was snapped, as if something or someone had broken it. She looked at Buddy. "Did someone try to take you?" Buddy's body trembled, his tail tucked between his legs. Emily had never seen him like this before. She turned and ran back to her mother.
"Mom."
"I think Buddy was taken." Her mother's face paled. "What?" Emily held up the chain. "Someone chained him up. He must have escaped, but who would do that?" A dark truth uncovered. They took their discovery to the local police station. At first, the officers weren't sure what to make of it. The case was old, and no one had reported anything suspicious at the time. But then one officer, Detective Harris, spoke up. "There was a report," he said, flipping through some old records. "A neighbor mentioned seeing a stranger near Mr. Henderson's house around the time of his passing. A man in a dark coat, hanging around the backyard." Emily's heart pounded. "Who was he?" The detective shook his head. "We never found out. But if Buddy was chained up near the woods, it's possible someone tried to steal him after Mr. Henderson died." Emily's hands clenched into fists. "But why?" The detective sighed. "Sometimes people see a valuable dog and think they can take it. Or maybe Buddy saw something he wasn't supposed to." The words sent a chill down Emily's spine. Had Buddy witnessed something the night Mr. Henderson died? The case was old, but the detective promised to look into it. Meanwhile, Emily knew one thing. Buddy had survived something terrible, but he had found his way back. And now he was safe.
Home at last.
That night, as Emily lay in bed, Buddy curled beside her. She wrapped her arms around him, holding him close. "You're safe now," she whispered. "No one will ever take you away again." Buddy let out a soft sigh, nuzzling against her. Outside, the stars shone brightly, and for the first time in a long while, Emily felt at peace. But in the back of her mind, she knew this wasn't over. The man in the dark coat was still out there. And one day, she would find out the truth. The days passed, but Emily couldn't shake the unease in her heart. The discovery of the broken chain, the mysterious man in the dark coat, something wasn't right. Buddy had escaped that night, but from what? And why had the authorities never investigated further? One evening, as she sat on the porch, stroking Buddy's fur, she made a decision. "I'm going to find out who that man was," she whispered. Buddy lifted his head, his eyes dark and alert. It was almost as if he understood. A clue in the shadows. Emily started by visiting the neighbor who had first reported seeing the stranger near Mr. Henderson's house. Mrs. Wilkins, a frail woman in her 70s, had lived next to Mr. Henderson for years. "Yes, I remember that night," Mrs. Wilkins said, her voice a soft rasp. "It was late, around midnight, I think. I heard a noise outside my window, and when I looked, I saw a man in a long coat standing near the fence." Emily leaned forward. "Did you see his face?" The old woman shook her head.
"No, dear."
"He kept to the shadows. But I saw him reach down toward the dog, and then I heard barking. Loud, angry barking. Buddy must have scared him off." Emily's heart pounded. "You think Buddy fought back?" Mrs. Wilkins nodded. "Oh, I have no doubt. That dog was loyal. If that man was up to no good, Buddy wouldn't have let him get away easily." Emily shivered. But why would someone be there? Mr. Henderson was already, she hesitated. Mrs. Wilkins sighed. "That's the strange part, dear. The man wasn't just passing by. He was looking for something." Emily's fingers tightened around her coat. What had Buddy interrupted that night? A dangerous warning. Later that evening, as Emily walked Buddy through town, she noticed something strange. A black car parked across the street. At first, she ignored it. But when she took another turn, she saw it again. It was following her. Her stomach twisted. She gripped Buddy's leash tightly, picking up her pace. Buddy sensed her unease, his ears perking up as he glanced toward the car. Then, just as suddenly as it had appeared, the car sped off into the night. Emily swallowed hard. Someone was watching her, and they didn't want her asking questions. A secret buried in time. That night, she told her mother about the car. Her mother's face went pale. Emily, I think you need to stop digging into this. But Mom. No, her mother cut in. Someone is watching you. I don't want you getting hurt. Emily clenched her fists. But Buddy. Her mother sighed. I know you care about him, but sometimes the past is better left alone. Emily didn't agree, but for her mother's sake, she promised to be careful. Still, she couldn't ignore the feeling that something big, was being kept from her. A midnight visitor. That night, as Emily lay in bed, Buddy suddenly lifted his head. A low growl rumbled in his throat. Emily's breath caught. What is it, boy? Buddy jumped off the bed and ran to the window. Emily followed, her heart pounding. Outside, in the dim glow of the street lamp, she saw it. A figure, standing at the edge of her yard, dressed in a long, dark coat. Emily's breath hitched. The man from the past had returned. Emily's heart pounded as she stared out the window. The man in the long, dark coat stood motionless at the edge of her yard, his face obscured by the shadows. Buddy's growls grew louder, his body tense as he stood protectively in front of her. The figure didn't move. Emily's hands trembled as she reached for her phone. Should she call the police? Wake her mom? Her mind raced, but before she could do anything, the man turned and disappeared into the night. Emily gasped. She waited for a moment, her breath shaky, before running downstairs. Buddy was already at the front door, scratching at the wood, desperate to chase after the intruder. Emily hesitated. She knew running outside in the middle of the night was dangerous, but something inside her told her this was important. Taking a deep breath, she slowly unlocked the door. Stay close, Buddy, she whispered. They stepped onto the porch, the cold night air wrapping around them like an unseen force. The street was empty, eerily silent, except for the soft rustling of the trees. Emily's eyes darted around, searching for any sign of the man. Nothing. Then, a noise. A faint click, like the sound of something being placed on the wooden porch. Emily's gaze dropped to the ground. There, just outside the door, was a small envelope. Her pulse quickened. Who had left it? Was it the man in the coat? With hesitant fingers, she picked it up. The envelope was old and yellowed, as if it had been kept for years. On the front, in faded ink, were two simple words. For Buddy, a message from the past. Emily's fingers trembled as she tore open the envelope. Inside was a single, handwritten letter. The paper was wrinkled, the ink slightly smudged, but the words were still clear. To whoever finds this, there are things you do not understand yet. Things that Buddy has seen. If you are reading this, then it means someone is looking for answers. Mr. Henderson did not die of natural causes. Emily's breath caught in her throat. He knew something dangerous. And Buddy was the only witness. That's why they tried to take him. But he escaped. And now they are watching again. Be careful. The truth is hidden, but if you dig too deep, they will come for you too. The letter was unsigned. Emily's mind spun. Mr. Henderson didn't die naturally? Was he murdered? And Buddy, had he seen what happened? She looked at the dog beside her. He stared at the letter, his ears twitching, his body tense. It was as if he understood. Who had written this? And why now, after all this time? Then something in the distance caught her eye. A movement. A shadow slipping away into the night. Emily's blood ran cold. The man had been watching, and he knew that she had the letter. A dangerous decision. The next morning, Emily told her mother everything. The letter, the man in the coat, the strange warning. Her mother's face turned pale. Emily, this is serious. If what the letter says is true, then someone hurt Mr. Henderson, and they might not want you to find out the truth. Emily swallowed hard. But we can't ignore it, Mom.
Buddy knows something.
And now someone knows that we know. Her mother rubbed her temples. Maybe we should go to the police. Emily bit her lip. What if they don't believe us? It's an old case. And what if they have people watching too? Her mother's expression darkened. Then we have to be smart. Emily nodded. She wasn't going to let this go. Someone had tried to take Buddy that night. Someone had hidden the truth about Mr. Henderson's death. And someone was still watching. She was going to find out who. A visit to the past. Emily spent the next few days digging through old town records, reading every newspaper article she could find about Mr. Henderson. Most of them said the same thing. Elderly man found dead in his home. No signs of foul play, but something felt off. Then she found something strange. An article from a week before Mr. Henderson's death. It was small, barely noticeable, but it mentioned something unusual. Local man claims to have discovered something important. Authorities dismiss it as nonsense. Emily's eyes widened. The article didn't mention what Mr. Henderson had found, but it did say that he had contacted the police about a matter of great concern. No one had listened, and a week later, he was dead. Emily's stomach twisted. Had Mr. Henderson discovered something so dangerous that someone wanted him silenced? And had Buddy, his loyal dog, witnessed it all? A trap is set. Emily knew she needed more information, but she also knew she was being watched. So, she decided to set a trap. That night, she left her bedroom light on but hid in the darkness by the window. She sat there, waiting, her heart pounding. Buddy was by her side, silent but alert. Hours passed. Nothing. Then, a figure moved in the shadows. Emily's breath caught. The man was back. This time, she was ready. She grabbed her phone, her hands steady as she hit record. She wasn't going to run. She wasn't going to hide. She was going to find out the truth. And this time, she wasn't going to let him disappear into the night. Emily's heart pounded as she watched the dark figure move outside her window. The dim glow of the street lamp cast long shadows across the yard, making the man's presence all the more ominous. But this time, she wasn't afraid. This time, she was ready. Buddy stood beside her, tense, his eyes locked on the intruder. His low growl rumbled through the silent night, a warning that he would not hesitate to protect her. Emily's fingers tightened around her phone. She had to catch him, prove that someone had been lurking around their house, leaving mysterious letters, trying to keep the past buried. The man took a slow step forward. Emily pressed record and whispered, "We have to go outside, Buddy." The dog turned to her, his deep brown eyes filled with understanding. He wouldn't leave her side. Taking a deep breath, she pushed open the front door. The man froze. Emily stepped onto the porch, gripping her phone tightly. "Who are you?" she demanded. "Why are you watching us?" The man hesitated, then slowly removed the hood of his long coat. Emily gasped. He was older, his face worn and weathered by time, but there was something strangely familiar about him. His deep-set eyes held a sorrow that seemed endless. "I'm not here to hurt you," he said quietly. His voice was rough, as if he hadn't spoken in a long time. "I came to make sure you're safe." Emily's pulse raced. Safe? From what? The man sighed, running a hand through his graying hair. From the people who tried to take Buddy. From the ones who took Mr. Henderson's life. Emily's breath caught in her throat. "So it's true? He didn't die of natural causes?" The man nodded gravely. "He found out something he wasn't supposed to know. And they silenced him." Emily felt a chill crawl up her spine. "Who are they?" The man hesitated, then spoke carefully. "A group of men, powerful men. They were involved in something illegal, something that Mr. Henderson accidentally uncovered. He was trying to do the right thing, but before he could go to the authorities, they got to him first." Emily swallowed hard. "And Buddy, he saw what happened, didn't he?" The man looked down at the dog, his expression unreadable.
Yes.
Buddy was there the night Mr. Henderson died. That's why they tried to take him. He was the only witness. Emily's mind spun. It all made sense now. Buddy hadn't just been a stray. He had been hiding, running from the same people who had killed his owner. Her voice was barely a whisper. "And you, who are you?" The man looked away for a moment, as if debating whether to tell her. Then he sighed. "My name is Daniel. I was Mr. Henderson's friend. A long time ago, I worked with the same men who betrayed him." Emily's eyes widened. "You are one of them?" Daniel shook his head. "Not by choice. When I found out what they did to him, I left. I've been in hiding ever since." But when I heard someone was asking questions when I saw you and Buddy, I knew they'd come looking again. Emily's stomach twisted. So, they're still out there? Daniel's expression hardened.
Yes.
And they don't like loose ends. A shiver ran down Emily's spine. She glanced at Buddy, who stood protectively beside her, his tail low, his body tense. What do we do? She asked. Daniel's jaw tightened. We end this. The final confrontation. Daniel led Emily and Buddy to an abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of town. This is where they operate, he whispered. This is where they took Mr. Henderson. Emily's heart pounded as they stepped inside. The air was thick with dust, the dim moonlight casting eerie shadows on the cracked cement floor. Then footsteps. Voices. A door creaked open, and 3 men stepped into the warehouse. They wore dark suits, their expressions cold and unreadable. One of them, a tall man with silver hair, smirked. I was wondering when you'd show up, Daniel. Daniel clenched his fists. It's over, Carter. The man, Carter, chuckled. Oh, I don't think so. You should have stayed in hiding. His eyes flickered to Emily. And you should have minded your own business. Emily's breath caught. She could feel Buddy's muscles tensing beside her. Carter took a step forward. You've been digging where you shouldn't, little girl. And now, you and your mutt are liabilities. Buddy let out a deep, menacing growl. Daniel moved in front of Emily. You're not going to hurt her. Carter smirked. And who's going to stop me? A sudden siren wailed in the distance. Carter's face twisted in confusion. Daniel smiled grimly. The police. Carter's eyes darkened. You called them? Emily held up her phone. The recording was still running. And I got everything on tape. The sirens grew louder. Tires screeched outside. Red and blue lights flashed through the warehouse windows. Carter cursed under his breath. This isn't over, he hissed before turning to flee. But it was too late. Police officers stormed the building, their weapons drawn. Within seconds, Carter and his men were surrounded. Daniel exhaled slowly. It's finally over. A new beginning. The next few days were a whirlwind. The police confirmed everything. Mr. Henderson had been murdered. The men behind it had been involved in a massive fraud scheme, and Mr. Henderson had accidentally uncovered their secrets. Thanks to Emily's recording, they were all going to prison. As for Buddy, one morning, Emily sat on the porch, watching the sunrise. Buddy lay beside her, his head resting on her lap. She stroked his fur, feeling the steady rise and fall of his breathing. You're safe now, she whispered. Buddy licked her hand as if to say, I know. Daniel had decided to leave town. He had spent too many years running, and it was time for him to find peace. But before he left, he made Emily promise to take good care of Buddy. She had no intention of breaking that promise. As she looked down at her loyal companion, she realized something. She had found Buddy when he had no one. And in return, Buddy had given her something even greater. A family, a home, and a story neither of them would ever forget.
The end.